Over the past 90 days, we monitored over 185,000 AI responses across 6 platforms: Claude, ChatGPT, Perplexity, Gemini, Google AI Mode, and Google AI Overview. This gave us nearly 700,000 citation events. Today, I'm going to walk you through everything we learned and how to get your brand cited by Claude. Basically, this is your Claude SEO guide. We'll also cover why it matters more than most teams realize. Now let's get into it. Here's where we are right now. Gartner famously has predicted that traditional search volume would drop by 25% by this year, and we're already seeing it. ChatGPT alone has 900 million weekly active users. When Google's AI overviews appear, organic click-through rates drop by as much as 61%. This is a pipeline conversation and not just a visibility conversation. Adobe, in their study, found that AI-referred visitors convert at 31% higher rate than visitors from other channels. Even in Triple-Dart's similar AI search studies, we've constantly found that AI-referred visitors are always more valuable. And here comes Claude SEO. Claude SEO is the practice of optimizing your brand and its content so that Anthropic's Claude cites, recommends, or mentions you when users ask relevant questions. The key difference between traditional SEO and Claude is that in Google, ranking, let's say, 6th position still earns good impressions. In Claude, however, you're either named in the answer or you don't exist. A category leader that we track, for example, shows up in over 77% of relevant queries to their industry. A competitor in the same space shows up at 0% of the queries. That's the gap that we're talking about. Now, why is Claude specifically important? Not all AI platforms are equal, and this might surprise you. Now, in the data that we analyzed, Claude had the lowest not mentioned rate at 54%. This means that it names brands more often than any other platform. Its owned domain citation rate is over 9%. Just twice that of ChatGPT. This means that more than mentioning you, Claude also sends traffic to your website. Now, ChatGPT, despite having the largest user base, consistently deliver the lowest brand visibility across the board. So if your AI strategy is calibrated only to ChatGPT, you're probably not optimizing for the right platforms. The median B2B SaaS mention rate across Claude among the several brands that we tracked is only about 9%, and this means that most brands are invisible right now. That's the bad news. But the good news is that there's still a lot of room to gain ground before the space gets crowded. Now let's see how Claude decides how to cite things. It checks 3 categories. Miss any one and you'll likely be filtered out. Category number 1 is training data. Does Claude know you exist? Its foundational knowledge comes from content that was well linked and widely referenced before its training cutoff. The platforms that dominate here are Reddit, YouTube, G2, Wikipedia, LinkedIn, so on. So if your brand is not showing up on these platforms, you're missing these sources. Category 2 is real-time data retrieval. Claude searches the web to augment its answers, and utility content wins. Not blog posts, but useful tools, guides, and content like that. In fact, one client for us had a single diagnostic tool page that earned over 100 citations, while dozens of their blog posts earned just around 10. Category number 3 is sentiment. Claude doesn't stop with just mention count. It also reflects how your brand is perceived. For example, pricing transparency was one theme where negative sentiment was consistently more than positive sentiment across multiple brands that we looked at. So before you optimize for more mentions, also don't forget to audit what AI is saying about your pricing, your support, and feedback. Now coming to the meat of the video. These are the 7 levers that we identified from our data, ordered by impact on what drives Claude visibility. We'll now deep dive into some of the highest impact ones among these. Lever 1, utility content over blog posts. This is the foundation. The content that earns Claude's attention solves a real problem. Tool pages, calculators, diagnostic guides, these earn 6 to 30 times more citations than standard blog posts. If you don't have a free tool or a calculator or something like that in your category that the user can use as a utility, build one. That single asset can outperform your entire blog library in a lot of cases. Lever 2. Third-party mentions are becoming non-negotiable. Ahrefs' study of 75,000 brands found that brand mentions correlate directly at a rate of 0.664 with AI visibility, compared to just 0.2 for backlinks. In traditional SEO, backlinks are the dominant signal. In AI SEO, third-party mentions matter way more. So the playbook here is straightforward. Keep posting relevant stuff. Platforms like these feed AI training data directly, and no amount of on-site content can fully compensate for this. This one is quite underrated. How Claude describes your brand reflects how the internet describes your brand. If you're positioning fragments across sources, Claude averages those narratives into confusion. The fix here is simple, but it requires discipline. Establish a canonical one-sentence brand descriptor and make sure that it appears identically on your homepage, G2, Crunchbase, LinkedIn, everywhere. Lever number 6. Answer first writing. Claude synthesizes answers, so it prefers content that leads with the answer. Let's take the query. What's the best HIPAA compliant e-signature tool? The old SEO era version starts with electronic signatures have transformed how healthcare organizations, blah, blah, blah. Claude reads that opening, gets no answers, and moves on. The optimized version starts with the best HIPAA compliant e-signal tools are ABC. The answer is there in sentence 1. Claude can extract it immediately. Go over your top of the funnel content and restructure so that the first paragraph directly answers the query. Now coming to sentiment. This matters more than what most people think. Volume without quality is almost a liability. Across our data, average positive sentiment was roughly around 60%, but it varies dramatically by theme. Danger zone that you need to keep an eye on is not your about page, your mission page, or your founder stories, because they usually get positive perception, but it's your pricing page. Now, pricing transparency is the most consistently negative theme across every category that we tracked. One brand, in fact, had 42% negative sentiment on pricing competitiveness alone. The rule here is pretty simple. Audit what AI says about your pricing and support, and then optimize for more mentions. More visibility with negative sentiment is actually worse for your brand. Coming to the final optimization point, what are the types of queries that matter for B2B? Category queries like best payment gateway are table stakes. Comparison queries like X versus Y or alternative to X are the highest leverage because they have a 2x to 3x mention rate jump. Process and technical queries like how to set up DMARC generate the most citations per page. And before we close, how does a brand understand where they stand? Audit your AI visibility. If it's below 3%, you're structurally invisible, so build it from scratch. If it's 3 to 10%, focus on third-party presence and utility content. If it's 10 to 25%, then it means that you're in a competitive space. Optimize comparison content, tighten brand framing, add expert bylines to your top pages. If it's above 25%, it means you're dominant and you need to defend your position. Monitor your sentiment and expand to adjacent topics before competitors do. You can use a platform like Slate. I'll add the link in the description below to see how visible you are in AI search and act on it. So, where do we start? Here's what I'd do this week if I was getting started. 1. Type your category into Claude right now. See if your brand appears. 2. Audit your third-party footprint. Where are the gaps? 3. Build utility pages. Free tools, diagnostic guides, comparison pages. 4. Establish a canonical one-sentence brand descriptor and ensure that it appears identically across platforms. 5. Re-audit for every 90 days. AI visibility keeps changing. If you want the full data, all levers broken down in the complete benchmark, we've linked the article in the description. If you want us to audit your brand's AI visibility, we'd be more than happy to. Just book a call with us. The link is in the description below. Thanks for watching.